Bullshit.
Pretend for a moment we've entered a parallel universe, free of bullshit and full of bold solutions. That's what the No BS show is all about. I'm your host, Dave Mastovich, and let's cut the bullshit. Many people become nervous when they have to write, speak, or do what they perceive as creative work. I've heard people say things like, I'm just not creative. While creativity can be magical, it's not magic. It's producing something of value that's new or unique. Creative solutions don't come quickly or easily to anyone, regardless of what some people say or think. People aren't creative on demand. Similar to achieving mastery in other disciplines, creativity requires planning, processes, deliberate practice, attention to detail, and intense focus. In other words, structure plus discipline leads to creative freedom. You might not write a book or blog post, you might never direct a video, design a website, or win a show creating special effects, makeup, but you can apply a creative process to produce new, unique, and valuable solutions throughout your career. Here are some tips. First, break down the problem. Clearly define what you need to change and your desired outcome. Write it down or type it up. Develop the mental roadmap. Creative thinkers and innovators use lists as mental roadmaps. List concepts, draw out ideas, write creative thoughts down, sketch the ideal outcome. Find the relationship between facts. Facts on their own aren't of high value. The real value comes from seeing the connection between the facts. Eliminate distractions, the texting, the email, surfing the net. Start small by blocking off a few hours of undistracted time for creative problem solving, and then build upon it as you see results. Collaborate. The old 2 minds are better than one and 3 minds are better than one is exactly right. Collaboration takes ideas to another level. Have the wrong mentality. It's okay to not get it right the first, second, or third time. Breakthrough creative solutions are developed by learning from mistakes. And lastly, show up. It takes discipline to keep working on creative stuff. Those who show up more produce more. Our guest today is Nora Hewitt, recent winner of Face Off, the Sci-Fi Network's reality TV show in which a group of special effects makeup artists compete against each other to create full makeup characters like those found in science fiction and horror films. Nora, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And congratulations on the big win.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your journey.
Well, I grew up in New England. I lived in Connecticut for like the first 20 years of my life. Pretty normal upbringing, high school. I was pretty much mostly focused on art in school. It wasn't that I was bad at academics, but I was always way stronger in art. So I really put most of my effort in school into the art programs. After I graduated high school, I went to community college for like a year and a half. And then I said, what the heck am I doing? Kind of a no bullshit situation. I sat down with myself and I said, I'm wasting time. I'm wasting money. I have no idea what I want to do with my life. It's stupid to think at 18 I'm going to know what I want to do with my life. So you know what? I'm going to withdraw from school. I'm going to move out, leave the nest, and go figure out what it is to be an adult and find myself and figure out what I really want to do so that I can really invest myself and money and time into an education that I want. So right off the bat, it was like some no bullshit. Right out of high school, I said, screw this. I dropped out of college, more or less, moved to Rhode Island, bartended, did the adult thing, paid my own bills, had my own apartment. I was maybe like 22, I found the Tom Savini School and basically just did whatever I had to do to get down here because I realized that this is where I was supposed to be and special effects was what I was supposed to be doing.
And here is Monessen. That's where we are today. We're recording from the studio at Douglas Education Center's amazing revitalization of Monessen. Pretty much the whole town is now Douglas Education Center. It's expanded. They have over 200 students, and the Tom Savini Special Effects Makeup Program is just outstanding, and that's what Nora became a member of and signed up for. So tell us a little bit about that, because I think there are students from all 50 states and like 15 countries now.
Oh, yeah, we've got people that come from all over. When I was in school, we had a student, Caesar, from France. I know we've got a girl from Germany here this year. Literally, people know about this program not only around the country, but around the world. But we've got people from, everywhere. I think they've got a girl from Alaska this year. I'm not sure, though. I could be lying. But yeah, people really know about the program. It's a 16-month program, and you also get a degree at the end of it, which really sets it apart from any other special effects makeup school that you're going to find in the country. A lot of them are like, 10, 11 weeks, maybe like 6 months, and you get maybe an accreditation at the end of it, but this is the only school that is 16 months, it's pretty damn close to 2 years, and you get an associate's degree at the end of it. So that was, aside from the curriculum and the faculty, that was a big selling point to me, was I get a college degree at the end of this, and I'm there for 2-3 times as long as all the other programs offered around the country.
So a couple of things. I had the chance to meet Jeff Ambrescia, the CEO of Douglas Education Center. He was on the board of a health system that I was a part of as a vice president, and got to know Jeff, and he explained to me his vision. First, he took a small business school and started doing a lot of healthcare stuff in the 90s, but then right around the turn of the century, he had this novel concept, and he came to me and he told me about Tom Savini. And I had to admit at that time, I'm not a horror movie buff, so I didn't know who he was. Why don't you tell our audience, in case they don't know, how when I look at these rankings and everything, Tom's always listed in these top 10.
Well, yeah, Tom is a legend in and of himself. He's basically, they call him the godfather of gore, the king of splatter. Tom basically, back in the day, I say back in the day like it was so long ago, but in the 80s, he really revolutionized practical effects, as well as like the physical effects, how you actually get these effects done. It wasn't so much about how he sprayed the blood or about, how he sculpted, whatever. It was really about how he executed the effects. He's a magician, really. He knows what he needs to show the audience so that they believe an effect, but, he's not overdoing it. He knows what he needs to do, and he doesn't do more than that. So basically, Tom just came up with all these really revolutionary ways of pulling off practical effects, from slit throats to arrows through chests, like the king of impaling people, as I like to think. So Tom really, so many of his movies are iconic, and that's why he's got such a huge following. People really love him. Creepshow, Friday the 13th, Maniac. I could go on and on. The man's just a legend and a real hero in the horror community.
We're talking with Nora Hewitt, the recent winner of Sci-Fi's Face Off competition and a graduate of Douglas Education Center's Tom Savini Special Effects Makeup Program. My quick Tom Savini story is, so when I got the chance to work with Jeff and Tom, he was doing Terror Mania. I got 2 quick Tom stories, so you can chime in and laugh and give me one of yours. But so my kids were relatively young, and I came to the Terror Mania, and my oldest son was probably 7 or 8. And my middle son was like 6. And Tom's like, you got to let them go through. And I'm like, Tom, they seem kind of young. He goes, no, it'll be fine. They're scarred for life. So they went through Terror Mania at a young age. But the other thing that he did that was really cool was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, it was a pretty famous thing. And his job on that was amazing. He gave me the mask the one day when I was here, and he said, go scare your kids. So I come home, I drive up close to my house, I put the mask on, and that's when your kids ran to the door to see Daddy. I pull up, and they come running to the car, and I get out with that mask on.
Daddy's Leatherface. That's awesome.
So I'm a bad dad in some respects. But so Tom's a legend. And talk about what he brings to the program, because I saw a lot of pictures as I was preparing for the interview, the Instagram picture with you and Tom, and then just at the showing of the finale, you, Tom, and Jeff were sitting there. Just talk about what he brings to the program in general, and then specifically to you.
Well, it's always really exciting whenever Tom comes to school. He's there at least a couple times a week. He's down here all the time. It's his school. He doesn't teach here anymore. He's a busy guy. He's got a lot of stuff going on. He's a grandfather, about to be a grandfather to a new baby soon too. So, Tom is a busy guy. But he comes down here all the time. He cares so much about this school and the students in it. But basically when he comes down, he'll just kind of meander around the building, walk around, come in. If you're sitting there working on something, he'll creep right up behind you and, give you a little scare or whatever. But he'll come around and he'll look at your work and he'll critique it, or he'll tell you how great it looks, or tell you what you can fix on it. And I think for a lot of people, it's really awesome to be able to say like, yeah, I ran into Tom Savini today and he totally looked at my sculpture and said it was really good, So, it's huge for people that come here, because some people come here and they either are like huge, fanboying or fangirling over Tom like crazy, like, oh, Tom, I love Tom, that's why I'm here. Or, people come because they're just like, I just want to do effects. I love Tom. He's the man. But I'm here to do, what I'm going to do. So you get a little bit of a different mix. And by the end of it, everybody's on the same page. Everybody's here to do the same thing. But yeah, Tom to me has been really kind of like a mentor. He really took me under his wing. You know, I remember in earlier semesters when he'd come through, he'd give me a lot of time and he would talk to me a lot. Even at graduation, you know, kind of before he even knew that I was on the show, because I wasn't, you know, I couldn't say anything to anybody. So nobody here really knew I was going. You know, Tom bought like one of my pieces at graduation, and that was like huge. You know, I made these like giant, oversized. We basically had a pissing contest our last semester at school, and everyone was making these huge, huge displays and these huge pieces. And I was like, oh, shit, I'm gonna make something real big. Like, all right, guys, let's do it. So I ended up making. I was kind of trying to be a dick, but I made these huge Jason Voorhees masks, like like massive, like wall display, like 4.5 feet.
That's awesome.
Just huge. And Tom ended up buying one. It's upstairs in the theater at his house. But that was like the coolest thing. Like one of my childhood heroes and adult heroes is like paying me for a piece of my artwork that he's going to add to his collection. And Tom's collection at his house still blows my mind every time I go over to Tom's house to hang out, to talk, to work on stuff. It's like the coolest movie museum ever, and it's like not even intentional. He's just got everything from every movie he's ever done and countless other things that he's collected over the years. So Tom's house is like a shrine to horror movies, and it's the coolest place in the world. I love going over Tom's. But yeah, the guy's a mentor. You know, he's like a surrogate grandfather / you know, like kind of like a Gandalf kind of thing. You know, I really look up to Tom, so it's very cool to get so much FaceTime with him. It's really cool to have him like be super invested in me and the other students here. So he really cares, and it's awesome.
Well, one of the things that I try to do with the No BS show is talk about Pittsburgh and Western Pennsylvania. We have so many crown jewels. Now, you are a crown jewel of the Pittsburgh region, but Tom Savini and also Douglas Education Center, two places that more people need to know about.
Absolutely.
Because they really are special places and special people. So let's move into the bullshit segment, so to speak. We've all seen it. I jokingly say maybe smelled it. Bullshit. Could be in the workplace, could have been at school. So a time when you just had to say, that's bullshit.
Lots of times. I mean, you know, being in school, and again, you know, when you're in an environment, especially a learning environment, everybody's going to be at different levels. Everybody's going to come in with a different skill set, different life experiences, what have you. You know, we're all different. That's the beautiful thing about being human and being people. But, you know, when I got to school, you know, for me, it was tough because, I mean, I was 23, you know, I wasn't like I was 18 coming right out of high school. I was an adult. I knew what I wanted to do. I lived on my own. And I was very, very serious about my education when I got here. So for me, it was no bullshit. You know, for me, I was here. I was focused. But you know what? There's always going to be, again, at any program you go to, any learning institute, any school, any whatever, any job, in life, there will be people that just slack. They just suck the energy and the positivity out of the room. You know, they're woe is me. They're, you know, oh, nothing ever works. And it's such bullshit. It's such an excuse, you know. So for me, you know, I stay away from the bullshit. You know, there was plenty of it. There was plenty of people that didn't get their projects done on time or made excuses. And I'm looking at them and I'm looking at what I'm making and what my friends are making who are trying, who are staying up all night and slaving over this stuff. And then you got people that just come in with, quite frankly, these like just things that they didn't put their heart and soul into, and you can tell. And it's kind of like a slap in the face for some of the instructors and for the people that are really there doing it. You know, that's how certain places get bad reputations. That's, you know, how you get a bad name out in the industry, you know, and we're not only representing ourselves when we leave here, we're representing the Douglas Education Center and the Tom Savini School. And I want to represent myself well, but I also want to represent my school well. So for me, I take it very seriously what I do. And I hate bullshit, and I hate when people make excuses and when they just don't try. You know, if you're not going to try, do something else because maybe you're just not that passionate about this, you know.
And you've shown how applying yourself and being passionate can lead to something like winning a huge show. But let's take the flip side because, you know, I've been a BSer and I'll jokingly say my audio guy always tells me I'm that whiner and bitcher and moaner because when the audio doesn't work, I complain. So he's right, and I have to try to stay more positive myself. So we're all guilty of BS at some time. So this is what, when we go and turn the tables on you, we say, looking back throughout your life, when's a time when you look back and say it was a learning experience because you look back and say, maybe I was full of a little BS?
Absolutely. We've all got our moments. And again, being human, I am totally subject to screwing up sometimes and being full of shit myself on occasion. Specifically, though, I try to keep it pretty honest, but there were times, just relating back to the show, I don't know if it was necessarily bullshit, but there were times where, again, just like you just said, I get in my own way more than anybody else does. It's really easy to get unmotivated. It's really easy to become down on myself. But again, it's because I'm looking at everything I'm doing with a very critical eye. But I guess I would say that even before school, if I'm looking at a big picture of like a time that I really bullshitted myself, when I left community college in Connecticut, I moved to Rhode Island, and I had a great time. Don't get me wrong. Best couple years of my life. I lived with a bunch of crazy kids that were going to college. I was a civilian. I was bartending, I was working all night, coming home to these crazy ragers happening, But honestly, I wasn't doing anything with my life. I was bartending. I was living day to day. I was making really good money, and I was partying a lot. I was doing the college thing without having to write any of the bullshit papers.
Yeah.
That was a time in my life where, I was bullshitting myself. I was not working to my full potential. I was at what I was doing, I was bartending and I was damn good at it, and I was having fun and I was making money. But in the hindsight, those were years that I potentially wasted that I could have been here doing this sooner. So for me, looking back at those years, I wouldn't change them. I don't regret them. Could I have done things differently? Could I have maybe found this school earlier and gotten started earlier and been, a little bit further ahead, now at 25? Absolutely. I could have taken those 3 years and done something amazing with them. I still think I did. I made amazing friends. I had amazing experiences. I learned how to bartend. I learned, other life skills and trades that I'll take with me forever. And I learned how to be an adult. But it was definitely a time in my life where I was like, I'm going to party and have fun and be a little irresponsible. And I think everybody needs that. So it was like that necessary bullshit that you have to go through to become an adult.
And I think that those times, having hit the bartending circuit as a DJ, not the bartender, but always the work and the adrenaline rush and everything, I look back at those years the same way you do. I learned so much about people and myself. God, yeah. But I did do a little bit too much partying, so I share the same thing. But that's why I chose the rant, the Cut the Bullshit rant for today, because do you ever get this? Like people that know me and know that I write and I speak and I'll do slogans and so forth, they almost act like it's easy. Oh, you were born that way. And I want to say creativity is so damn hard. Talk about that.
Oh, it is, because it's like ironic even saying this, or it's just like it doesn't even make sense saying it, but like I'm modest about what I do, and I'm like yesterday I went to get an oil change at the Subaru dealership up in Monroeville, Cochran Subaru, and I'm sitting there and I'm just going through Twitter or whatever. Like social media is like the bane of my existence now because it never ends. So I'm sitting on my phone and this guy comes up and he just starts kind of like casual like conversation, and he's just like, did you ever go to the Lowe's in Greensburg? I work at Lowe's in Greensburg. You look really familiar. And people say that to me all the time now. You look really familiar. And I never want to just be like, hey, I was on this show Face Off. Like that's such a douchey thing to say. Like I don't draw attention to myself. I don't like when people sing me happy birthday. I'm very like, no one look at me, Yeah. So this guy, literally I let him talk for like 5 minutes, and I didn't say that I was, I'm Nora from Face Off. I just said, eventually I said, I went to the Douglas Education Center. I went to the Tom Savini School. He's like, oh yeah, me and my dad, we love the show's Face Off. And then I was like, all right, he knows. He's just like being weird about it. So I was like, all right, yeah, I'm Nora. I was just on season 9. He's just like, I thought it was you, but I didn't want to say anything. And I'm like, I knew it was me and I didn't want to say anything. It's okay. So, I'm really, I'm modest about it when I meet people and, they recognize me from the show. I'll talk to them about it, whatever. But it was kind of, before the show when I was in school, other people would look at my work for you, or you're so good, or they'd get mad at me when I would sit there and look at something I made and say, this is crap, this is shit. This looks horrible. I can do so much better. And they're just sitting there going, like, shut up. They just want to shake me like, screw you. Look at what I'm working on. Look how bad this is, And for me, I don't ever look at somebody's work and say it's bad. It's just look at it and say, this is where you can improve. This is where you can get better. It's never like this is horrible and there is no hope for you. Like no, anyone can get better. Anyone can improve themselves and improve their work. So it's never like frustrating when people like tell me to like shut up when I'm like being self-deprecating about my work, or they say it's easy, but it's not easy. It's really stressful. I've had so many like mini mental breakdowns over this stuff. over not being able to figure out how to paint something right. I remember when you do the show, when you get, kind of like when you start the audition process, about halfway through that process, they take a big group of you and they say, all right, you guys are our semifinalists. We're going to LA for a week. We're going to do interviews, a psychiatric evaluation, all the bullshit that you got to do to be on reality TV. But you're also going to do another makeup application on yourself. So I had to like mentally prepare myself to go and talk to the executive heads and this and that. But I also had to get a makeup ready to go to LA to do on myself. So I'm sitting in my house. It's the night before I leave to get on the plane to go out for semifinals, trying to get on this show. And I'm just sitting there like crying into my paint, like, why did I think I could do this? This was a horrible idea. Like, I'm not ready for this. And this is during my like third semester at school, because I was still in school and I got casted. But I was just freaking out, and I called my buddy Tommy, and he came rushing up, brought me cigarettes and coffee, and he sat there with me for a few hours and calmed me down, and we just got the paint job done on this piece, and it was no big deal. But it's really, really tough, and it's really scary sometimes when you have a complete and total mental block, especially if you're a creative person and that's what you do. I mean, that is the most terrifying thing. That's like, I'm a stenographer in a courtroom, and all of a sudden I get carpal tunnel, and I can't use my hands. I can't type anymore, but that's what I do, So for me, whenever I'm like creatively, total mental block, it's like, it's terrifying. It's like, is it going to come back? Am I going to figure this out? Am I going to push through? So it's scary because it's really all in your own head, like you're relying on your brain, and if your brain fails you, like you're in some serious shit.
It is. I'm laughing while you're saying this because we own a company that's all about transformative message and marketing and creative. And I do the thing you just said. I'll just say, what happens when I'm no longer able to come up with anything creative?
Right.
And then I go, wait a minute, you've been doing this your whole life, but it's so scary. And that's why a creative on demand bothers me. I tell people, no one on my team is creative on demand. They have to have structure and discipline, and they work really hard. So I'm with Nora Hewitt, who recently won Face Off, Sci-Fi's reality TV contest. Nora graduated from the Tom Savini Special Effects Makeup Program. And the other thing I have to say is the whole birthday thing. You're the first person that's ever said that. Everyone makes fun of me on my birthday. I say, don't sing to me. I don't want to hear it.
I hate it. I get red. I'm just like, please don't. Like, no.
Thank you.
Don't do it.
Thank you.
I get very embarrassed.
So you were going down the path a little bit about the 2 weeks in the semifinals to get on the show. Walk us through the whole thing. When did you decide to apply? What gave you the confidence to apply? What's their first process? Go through it all.
So me getting on Face Off, even from the beginning, like the application process, I'll be honest, it was like a very last minute decision. I mean, literally like 2 days, these, audition tapes are due, and I had been battling with myself, do I do it, to dive or not to dive into this? And I was just terrified. I think I must have been a third semester student. But I just remember thinking to myself, like, there's no way. There's no way it's going to happen. So it's like zero risk. I might as well just do it. Screw it. Try it out. Go for it. So very last minute, I decided to do it. I came down to the Film Factory program. I grabbed a film student. I said, I need you for the afternoon. I will pay you in Hot Pockets. Let's go. And he came, and we shot the video actually at his house in his room. And he brought GoPros and stuff, but we did my whole audition tape. My buddy DJ helped me out with it, send the tape in. And I think it was like a day later, they called me up and said, hey, really dug your tape. We're into you. Want you to be on the show. We want to do a second round of like Skype interviews with you. I'm like, awesome. So you do that. You send your tape in. You do a Skype interview. You do another Skype interview. And then you wait. There's a lot of waiting. It'll be like months and weeks of like nothing. You hear nothing. You don't know what's going on. And then all of a sudden you get that, you see that LA number on your phone, and you're like, it's like a mini heart attack every time. So basically, I did that, and then I went in, I did the semifinals, which is when they take a large group of us. We go out to LA. They pretty much lock you in a hotel room for a week, literally 5 days, like by yourself in a hotel room. You can't talk to anybody, like it's really like you're sequestered because they don't want you like knowing each other. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you're isolated. It makes perfect sense.
Are you allowed to use your phone and text friends? And
when I was there at semifinals, yeah. So I wasn't completely bored. I had, my girlfriend at the time let me borrow her laptop, so I watched a lot of movies. I got really bored at certain points, so I tried to teach myself how to walk on my hands. And, in a hotel room, which was like not easy because it's like an obstacle course. But I managed to find, I watched a lot of Law and Order, like I was just bored.
Yeah.
But it was exciting, but it was nerve wracking because you're just sitting there like waiting for these interviews or filling out paperwork, and you're just thinking like, about how, what am I going to wear? What am I going to say? Am I going to say the right thing? Are they going to look at me and just immediately say no because of what I'm wearing? It's nerve wracking, and I usually don't think about that kind of stuff because I really don't give a shit what people think. But when you're in a situation like that where you're being judged on your person and on your artwork, it's hard not to take it personally and not to be really
yes,
oh God, they're judging me, because they are. They're judging you. So that went well, though. Nailed all my interviews. Everything went really well, and basically, again, waited, and I actually got the phone call saying, hey, you're going to be on the show. When I was here, I was in class, in one of my least favorite classes, actually, because it had to do with the computer. We were building our website, and I'm technologically deficient. I'm illiterate when it comes to technology and the internet. Not my forte. But I was sitting in class and my phone rang and I looked at it and it's the LA number, and I was just I gotta leave right now. I gotta go pick this up. So I scooted out of class and I locked myself in the bathroom, and it was them saying, hey, you're on the show, and that was crazy, because I was trying to contain my excitement. I had to go right back to class afterwards, and it's I can't tell anybody. So it was weird. It was crazy. But it's just been a long waiting game, not being able to talk about it, not being able to tell people about it, tell people that I won. I have known since April that I won. You know what I mean? So
I've always wondered how you all do that when you're on shows like the Face Off show on Sci-Fi or Survivor. How do you go months without telling anyone?
Well, you're under contract, and it's really better to not break that contract, because I'm pretty sure they'd come after me for more than I'll ever be worth. They don't screw around. They're investing, time and a lot of money into making this show, so they don't want any information getting leaked out. So we're all under very tight, contract to keep our mouths shut. Now, again, that's just a piece of paper. It doesn't really mean anything. So people could go and they could blab and they could talk about it, and I could have easily gone and told the whole world, but I'd be screwing myself and I'd be ruining an entire season of a show that people really love and are fans of. So morally, I think all of us knew, yes. We're not supposed to say anything.
So talk about the show for those that have not seen it. It's, I liken it to Survivor because it starts out with 16 people, but talk about how that happened, how you met the other 15 contestants, and talk about some of the weekly contests and so forth.
So basically, the show is a competition show for special effects makeup artists. Every week on the show, there's an episode every week. They'll introduce a new challenge. Sometimes it'll be a solo mission. Sometimes it'll be a team challenge. But basically, you're always creating a character, which in my field in special effects, which basically mainly consists of sculpting. We're first and foremost, we're sculptors, because every prosthetic starts off as a sculpture. So again, basically you walk in, Mackenzie Westmore standing there in some fabulous dress, and she'll introduce, your challenge for this week. And then after that, basically, let's say it's a spotlight challenge, which is typically one of the longer challenges. You get 3 days in the lab. Realistically, when you boil that time down and you look at the amount of time they give us to work on things, realistically, they say we have 3 days in the lab. We're only getting about 20 hours, if we're lucky, to do everything. So you have to, in 20 hours, you have to conceptualize your character. You have to sculpt your character along with any prosthetics. It could be a face, could be a chest piece, could be a back piece, could be all 3 of those things. Could be even more than that. So you have to sculpt all your prosthetics. You have to then mold all your prosthetics, which takes a lot. And then you've got to run your foam, you got to apply, you got to paint, and it's all happening in 20 hours. It takes me, 20 hours just to think of a good idea sometimes. So it's really extreme, very stressful, but it's exhilarating, it's exciting, and you've got this whole beautiful lab full of makeup that I can never afford. So it's really cool because you're just a kid in a candy store. There's a wig room, and there's European body art, airbrush paints for miles, and there's just really amazing stuff. But yeah, so when I got to the show, the first couple days when we were shooting, they kind of let us get settled in. Everyone gets to the house, we get to know each other for a day or two, and then we start shooting. And honestly, I think one of the most special things about Face Off is that even though it's a competition, it's so not a competition. You never feel like you're in direct competition with anybody. At least I can speak for my season. I can't speak for past seasons, obviously. But for my group, for season 9, we all really bonded instantly in those, day and a half, 2 days where we got to know each other and first met each other. Really all instantly connected. And from the first challenge, right off right off rip, it never once felt like you were in competition with the people around you. You're really just in competition with yourself. When it's an art-based challenge, when you're doing anything artistic that's coming from within, that's coming from you. And art is subjective, and you can't really compare it to other people's art, unless it's like specific, this is cubism, or this is, landscapes or whatever. It's something black and white, but art isn't really black and white ever. It's very subjective. So you're just really competing against yourself. And I think we all felt that way, all 16 of us. I can't remember one instance of it ever feeling competitive, even down at the end when it was the finale. It was still just like, I want to see Ben do really well. I want to see Evan do really well. I want to see their makeups. I was excited to see their makeups. I was excited about my makeups, but I was like, I can't wait to see everybody else's shit too. So it's just a really beautiful and rare experience, and never felt like a competition. There's no backstabbing. We're all right there. If so-and-so can't pop their mold, there are like 5 people over there with crowbars and rubber mallets trying to get that son of a bitch open. So it's really a beautiful, unique experience, and I think kind of unlike any other, and definitely something that I will take with me for the rest of my life. I learned so many lessons there, in teamwork, in creativity, in time management, problem solving, you name it. That show was pretty much like special effects boot camp for me, especially coming right out of school.
You're listening to the No Bullshit Marketing Show. I'm your host, Dave Mastovich. I'm with Nora Hewitt, the recent winner of Season 9 of the show Face Off. And you just hit on this show, No Bullshit, is all about leadership, communication, and messaging. And so I wanted to talk about that because you hit on it right there. Just like Survivor and some other shows, late when you're down to the final 3 or final 4, final 5, they started bringing the other cast members back, and you had to work as a team. Talk about that.
Oh, that was awesome, because, it was kind of like a little family reunion. Just sheer excitement and joy. Like when we saw like our fallen brothers and sisters coming back through that door, we all just freaked out. It was exciting, especially because it got, a little lonely at the end. It's like just me, Ben, and Evan in this big empty house. We were only there for like a day or two by ourselves, but it was still like, where is everybody? Because the house was so full, and like loud and exciting at first, and then it just kind of dwindles down as we went. But yeah, it was really cool. I enjoy individual challenges, but that's when I tend to get really in my own head. I love working with people. I love being on a team because you feed off of each other's energy. You feed off of each other's creativity. You're right there to help each other. You're right there to pull somebody out of their own head, So for me, team challenges are awesome. I love individual ones too, but team challenges were great. And I thought a lot about, who I was going to pick for my finale team. You don't always get who you want to pick because you're picking at random. And I was the last one to pick, but in hindsight, I couldn't have gotten a better team. And I think that I know that I still would have picked Jasmine and Meg regardless. I had worked with Jasmine before on another challenge earlier in the season, and we just had the best time. Everything went so smoothly. We were laughing the whole time. We weren't stressed out. We were having fun. At one point, our mold locked, and we were still laughing, like while we were like fighting with the mold, So for me, I knew I wanted Jasmine right away. We had an excellent partnership, and we worked well together, and she's an amazing artist. And then, Meg was the last one standing up there, so I got Meg no matter what. But I fucking love Meg. So like I didn't care. Like Meg is great. She's a workhorse. She's a spitfire, and she knows a lot about all these different materials that I had never worked with before. I would talk to Meg all the time. She's got such a wealth of knowledge about new materials that are coming out. She's like right on top of it. So it was really just a blessing to have 2, amazing partners for the finale. And then not to mention, they surprised us again and brought back yet another, like, hey, we're giving you another character, but we're also giving you another, another person to work with. And I got to pick first that time. And for me, seeing Ricky up there, I said, this is my Savini, brother in arms. Yes. Like, I need Ricky, So I snatched him right up. So I'm really so fortunate to have had such an amazing team. And, anybody I would have gotten or chosen would have been great. But right from day one of the final challenge, Meg and Jasmine sat me down and just said, just so you know, like, we're here for you. We are here to work as hard as we can and to put the best work in front of the judges for you. They're like, we want you to win. We want to do the best that we can for you. We're here for you. And I was just like, guys, like, I love you. Like, you don't even need to say that. Like, I know you're going to do the best that you can do, but it was really awesome to hear them just sit me down for no reason and say, just so you know, like, we're going to kill this. We got this. Like, we're here to do whatever we can do to make sure that you win. We want to be on a winning team. Let's do this. And we did.
Nora, how can listeners contact you if they'd like to learn more about what you do and what you're up to?
Yeah, well, I'm as much as I'm not into the internet, I'm all over it. So, you know, my Facebook, my personal page is maxed out right now, which like blows my mind. So I'm trying to filter through and like free up some space on there. But I do have a work page / fan page that you guys can check out. It's, if you go on Facebook, it's just Nora Hewitt, SFX, and my page should pop right up. I've been trying to keep it updated with new work and, you know, work from the show. So yeah, Nora Hewitt Special Effects page, or SFX. You can find that on Facebook. You can also follow me on Instagram. My handle is Badfish SFX. And I'm on Twitter, and Twitter's just my name, no alias. It's Nora_Hewitt. So I'm all over the internet, guys. Find me. I'll find you. It takes me a while to respond sometimes because I'm still backed up from like, you know, the finale 2 weeks ago. But I do check all my stuff myself. It's not somebody else running my pages. So if you send me a message, it might take me a little bit, but I will read it and I will respond.
We'll make it easy for them. We'll have that stuff up on the show notes for today's show. So Nora, thanks for being on the show. This was really fun.
Oh, no. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I'm really enjoyed it.
Thanks. So thank you, our audience, for joining us for the No Bullshit Marketing Podcast. Visit boldsolutionsnobs.com for those show notes I mentioned, plus additional marketing and messaging resources. Sign up for light reading. It'll give you strategies every other week to improve your messaging and maybe even shine some bright ideas for you. It's quick. You can read it in 2 minutes or less. To sign up, visit massolutions.biz. And lastly, remember, ask yourself, what's the big idea? And build your story around the answer. It's all about